Fired up. Let's do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. Good luck to you.
Fighting like hell like we do every week. You are the best here. Brett, be affirmative. You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah.
11 got it. Rowdy there, Mac. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4. Great job, guys.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark, and it looks like I've got volume this time, or sound this time. All right, just checking to make sure everything's okay. Thanks for joining Racing in the Draft. We are headed to Richmond. Well, I'm already in Richmond, or just outside of Richmond, and have already been to the racetrack once today to see an exciting Xfinity race. Very typical, not a whole lot of cautions. Varying strategies on tires, which created some interesting moments there towards the end of the race. But either way, congrats to Chandler Smith on getting the win. And I ran into some drivers while I was there. I'll share those momentarily. But before we do that, let's head back to Austin, Texas for Circuits of the Americas, where William Byron pretty much dominated that race. And Christopher Bell almost made an interesting move at the end there, but couldn't quite catch up. Did Ty Gibbs hold him up? We'll never know. Either way, kind of turned out the way I thought it would. Joe Logano, I was not sure if the Fords had much in the way of speed, and honestly, they did okay. But I'm not really sure what to make of the Fords. They have moments where they're good and moments where they're not very good. But if we look at the optimal lineup, we had Joey Logano, Chase Briscoe, and Chris Buescher all making the optimal lineup, all driving Fords. Most of it was place differential, but since we didn't have any natural cautions, we only had the 2 cautions come out for stage breaks. It's, they definitely were able to drive up to the front. Track limits kind of played into that. Hopefully they get rid of that. I am on the boat with that. Come up with something different. Put the turtles back out or something other than giving people drive-through penalties and 30-second penalties and things of that nature. Either way, but the optimal lineup was fairly kind of the way I thought it would be, other than the Fords being there. AJ Allmendinger, ended up finishing 6th, started in 14th. If you had him in your lineup in place of Chris Buescher, it probably was still okay. I'm not sure it would have fit. No, it would not have fit. But even if we look at the drivers who didn't make the optimal lineup, Ryan Blaney driving a Ford. That's really about it. Is you had four of the Ford drivers who ended up having pretty decent days, at least in Draftkings point wise. They didn't really have any great finishes. We only had one Ford finish in the top 10, but because they started so far back, they were able to make inroads on at least Draftkings points. Either way, last week was I didn't do great. I didn't do awful. I was a little down, at least on the DraftKings side. But I thought all in all, it ended up being a pretty good race. It was a very typical road course race. And that's what road course racing used to be for a very long time until some of the drivers got better and they started competing with each other. And then they started kind of running over each other and banging into each other. And now everybody's just good and they behave themselves. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the boat that we need to get rid of some of them. I don't know. I think Coda's okay because of the location it's in, being in Texas. I think there's a need for it there. I thought I don't like the Chicago street course, even though I would be kind of apt to going to Long Beach. I thought that was a really kind of a neat possibility when there was some discussion of NASCAR buying 50% ownership of Long Beach. That would have been really kind of a neat thing to do instead of at least having that maybe as the Clash not being at the Coliseum and you still are in the Southern California area. Either way, I love Sonoma, I love Watkins Glen, and I think Coda kind of plays into that same realm of actually being a road course. And Xfinity can continue to go to Portland and Road America. I almost think that you take the Xfinity out of Coda, let the trucks and Cup go there, let Xfinity go to some of the other places, and maybe even let the trucks go to Mid-Ohio as their second road course. I don't know. I think we could spread the road courses out in different areas of the country so you still hit populations that don't really necessarily have a track that's close to them. Like, I think probably within the next year to 2 years, we're going to see them go back to Canadian Tire, just across the border in Canada. And, I don't have a problem with this going to Canada. I don't have a problem with this going to Mexico. I mean, I'd love to see an exhibition race, maybe even go to one of the, the big road courses over in Europe as a, off-season type of thing to let them do some testing. I don't know. Throwing lots of things out there. I think we should move road courses around. I think we should keep the two that are staple, which is Sonoma and Watkins Glen, because they've been there ever since I started watching NASCAR. But other than that, we can sit here to debate road courses or not. Either way, this was kind of our optimal lineup. Ross Chastain still at the top with Ty Gibbs with 3. Bubba Wallace, Noah Gragson, Tyler Reddick, Martin Truex Jr., William Byron, Christopher Bell, Alex Bowman. Well, we've got a lot of people all fighting for that top spot still. And the list just continues to grow and grow and grow. Wonder if by the All-Star break this will be full. My guess is probably so. All right, we head to the Toyota Owner 400 at Richmond Race Day this weekend. We are back under the lights, finally. This race needs to be under the lights. The fall and the spring race both need to be under the lights. It's what I grew up with. I'm a traditionalist. I understand it. But it gets too hot. I mean, even today, it went up to like 78 degrees. 78 degrees in the stands is hot. I don't know how people have done it in Atlanta when it was in the middle of summer, or the Texas Motor Speedway when it's in the middle of summer. It's just hot in the stands. Either way, I can't wait for it to be back under the lights. There's something about the excitement level being so much better when they're under the lights. I'm going to try something, okay. Well, I'm not showing anything on my YouTube that's working. And I'm not showing anything on Rumble either. Interesting. Well, let me check something real quick. Hopefully I don't get any feedback on this from the volume down on my phone. It's saying I'm not live, but everything else is saying I'm live. There it is. Okay. So yeah, it's working. Okay. Cool. Just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to go through a whole other broadcast tonight and have to do it again tomorrow, even though I've got a lot more time tomorrow. I'm live. What's up, family man? Long time no see. Haven't seen you in a while. So yeah, I went to the Xfinity race and was sitting up in the stands, and all of a sudden, this guy shows up. And I look over and I'm like, that's Josh Berry. So I ended up getting to sit next to Josh Berry for the entire Xfinity race. He and his wife and kid. Super nice guy. I mean, just down to earth. Hey, cool. I'm glad you can hear me. But yeah, I got to sit next to Josh Berry for the entire race today. So I had to go get a Josh Berry shirt after that. I guess I'll add him into the list of drivers that I enjoy watching and can root for. He really was just a super interesting guy, just down to earth. We talked a lot about strategies, tire wear, qualifying, practices, when we could actually talk. If you've ever tried to talk to somebody at a NASCAR race, it's almost near impossible. You can only do it during cautions or, pretty much cautions. That's about it. So, but either way, he and his family are super nice. I wish Josh Berry the best of luck tomorrow. And we're at a short track, and he finished second in the spring race last year when he was here. So he stands a pretty good shot of potentially finishing pretty well. Either way, Richmond Raceway used to be Richmond International Raceway, but Richmond Raceway, it is a short track type. It is 0.7 mile, 5 miles, 3/4 of a mile, 14 degrees in the corners. And when watching it on TV, it really doesn't look like much banking, but once you get there, 14 degrees is actually a decent amount of banking. The race length, I mean, it's not Bristol by any means, but it's there's enough banking here. The race length is 400 laps. Dominators will be something we have to make sure we are aware of and watching and looking for in our lineups. At least one, potential even two, because we seem to have gotten into a trend of not necessarily having one guy that dominates the entire race. We kind of have two. So trying to find those two is really what we're going to be looking for. And I think there's a conspiracy, and it might be a theory. I don't know. And I'm being completely facetious about it all. But there's something about the sponsor of this race being Toyota, and the Toyotas dominating here for like the last 10 years. Now, I know we had two Fords win last year. I get it. But when we look at the pretty much the domination of Richmond, it has been Toyotas. We've had other drivers win, and I get that. But just for some reason, I always synonymously almost always think, oh, Richmond, Joe Gibbs Racing, Toyota. So guess who the favorites are this weekend? The Toyotas. And a couple Chevys, and maybe a couple Fords. But either way, it should be quite interesting. Looking at other style tracks, I mean, actually, this is not the right setup. This is for last week. But comparison tracks, we won't use this. Comparison tracks to here would be, you could put a little bit of Martinsville, a little bit of Phoenix, a little bit of Gateway, short or flat tracks that are not super speedways. So, I mean, Richmond's kind of unique. I guess Phoenix is probably the one that's closest to it. We're going to go to another similar style track in the summer in Iowa that will also race kind of similar to this, but we don't have any data on Cup cars at Iowa. So that would be another one that when we get to Iowa, we'll look back at Richmond to see who was fast and who wasn't. But Martinsville kind of plays into this one. In fact, I mean, Richmond used to be where pit road was. This whole funny D-shaped, almost always turning type radius around the front, on the front stretch, was not here. It used to come around and just go down pit road. And pit road was kind of kinked in a little bit more than it used to be. But they changed this, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago or something. But yeah, this used to be very, very similar to Martinsville. And having two tracks that were so similar, close to each other, just didn't work, so they made a change to Richmond. And I think it's been a pretty good change. think we need to do something with the asphalt. I don't know. Changing asphalt always scares me because it can make it not race very good. And Richmond has a tendency to have really good races and has a tendency to be boring. Um, Richmond's always kind of been a little bit of a boring track, but they used to at least beat and bang. Ever since this next gen showed up, we haven't quite gotten that. Either way, optimal lineups from previous Richmond races, and all 4 of these are with the next gen era car. As you can see, we're looking for that kind of one dominator. I mean, even with this, 25% of the laps Brad Keselowski led, Chris Buescher with the other 88 laps. So we didn't have any true, untrue dominator. I mean, Bubba Wallace led 80 laps. God, I completely forgot about Bubba Wallace doing that well. But yeah. But most of it was guys that came from the 20s. And then if we look kind of at the spring race from last year, Kyle Larson ended up winning it, leading only 93 laps. Josh Berry led 10 laps, but came from 30th to 2nd. So it's kind of it's a mixed bag of place differential and finishing spots. I mean, finishing spots always plays a pretty big factor into DraftKings. But with 400 laps being on the board, we need to look at laps led. And we can kind of see fast laps get spread out. I mean, 25, 20, 27, 22, 27, 30. So no real dominator on fast laps either. And that has a little something to do with tire wear and pit strategy. So now we're kind of seeing the same thing. Joey Logano led 222 laps, but he ended up finishing 6th. But, nobody started in the top 10 here. And then in the spring of 22, we had 3 people who started in the top 10, and everybody else was kind of more place differential. And we still didn't have any real true... See, I consider a dominator somebody who leads 30% of the laps or more. But either way, that's kind of what we're looking at. Then, this is something new I started here recently, was putting in starting spots compared to the top 15 in DraftKings points. So 4 drivers, let's say the fall of 2023. I had this repeated. Yeah, I've got 2 of these repeated. Either way, the last race we had here in the fall, we had 4 of the top 5 starting spots finished in the top 15 in DraftKings points. We had nobody 31st or worse that ended up finishing in the top 15 in DraftKings points. So that kind of gives you an indication that, we're not necessarily looking for the guys that are starting 30th or worse. The only ones that I find that end up starting 30th or worse are guys that had real issues in qualifying or in practice and didn't make a good qualifying lap. So looking down through here, Chase Briscoe, Michael McDowell, Ty Dillon, Kaz Grala, Justin Haley, and Daniel Hemrick all starting in the 30s. Well, I'm not sure. Michael McDowell's been having a pretty good year so far this year, so I would think maybe he would have some potential of having a place differential. But I'm thinking that we're going to see something very similar to what we've seen previously, is only trying to find on average, one driver out of the 31st through 36 places that end up making the top 15 in DraftKings points. The bulk of it really kind of seems to be spread pretty evenly, 1 through 10, 11 through 20, and 21 through 30. So it's kind of an even mixed bag, which kind of indicates, a couple of the guys that start up front stay up front. A couple of the guys that start in the back move up front, which is pretty similar to most races. And I've kind of broken this down into, we'll get into the driver breakdown here in a second, that'll kind of explain this a little bit more, but I always like to kind of show this before we get into it, so you kind of have an indication of why I have different ranking systems for different drivers. And a lot of it has to do with their starting positions. Like, I think Todd Gillen outkicked his coverage. Austin Cindric, I think, is starting too far up. Bubba Wallace, maybe not. He did lead 80 laps in the fall race, and he started in 5th. So, but his practice speeds were not super fast. Now, that was something I did talk to Josh Berry a lot, was this new group practice, group qualifying, and why Group A is so much faster than Group B, and how do you actually kind of get an understanding for who actually is fast in practice and who isn't. And even Josh Berry was like, I just know that if I'm in Group A, I'm going to be fast, and all I can really compare to is the guys from Group A. And if I know if I'm in Group B, I know to just compare to the Group B guys. And I'm like, well, I'm thinking in my head, well, for DraftKings, that really doesn't help me very much, Josh, but I appreciate the information. And, the whole thing is all of a sudden you've got guys that go out, fresh track, clean track, they'll lay down rubber, but while that's happening, they've got the most asphalt to rubber connection, so they go faster. Then the second group goes after the track with cold tires, and as they're heating them up, they're pulling the rubber that Group A put down, which then makes the cars a little bit slicker, which then ends up causing it to be a slower. And he's like, for true race speed, Group B is going to be a better indication. And then he goes, well, then Group A goes to qualify, and their setup is not as good. So that's why you see the guys from Group B sometimes end up out qualifying from Group A. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm lost. Either way. So after talking to him, I spent a little while looking at this. So Kyle Larson was in Group A, and he went out and he put down the fastest lap of anybody else. He did 45 laps of practice, and he was second on 20-lap run. We had enough cars do 20-lap consecutive runs, only 2 cars did not, that I went ahead and moved my 10-lap consecutive run to a 20-lap consecutive run. Well, if we can look at this in practice, so Kyle Larson was in Group A with a 22.16. Chase Elliott in Group B, his fastest time in practice for a single lap was 22.88. So almost 7/10, 7.22 difference in those two. And William Byron was kind of close to Chase Elliott's speed, so about the same. And William Byron was in Group B. So this kind of gives us an indication when we're looking at practice speeds, the comparison doesn't correlate from Group A to Group B very well. So then I'm like, okay, let's look at the long run speed with 20 laps. It does even out a little bit better. Kyle Larson had a 22.86, and William Byron was at a 23.13 and a 23.2. I didn't put the math in there, but that's only about a 0.4, so about half of the speed differential fall off. But then, if we look at qualifying, and I did not take the final round of qualifying in because not everybody made, like William Byron did not make the final round of qualifying when I was looking at this comparison. So Kyle Larson qualified in Group A with a 22.358. Okay. He's also got the pole. Chase Elliott, who has the outside bubble because of the final 10 qualified again, but this is from their group qualifying. So Kyle Larson was actually slower in group qualifying than Chase Elliott was, and he was still slower than William Byron, who did not make the second round of qualifying, and was actually faster than Kyle Larson, who was in the first group, and the first group is supposed to be faster. If that makes any sense at this point, yeah. So when we're looking at qualifying speeds and long run speeds, you almost have to look at the two of them as completely different sets of groups, but then they all race together on Sunday, and you go, who the hell's faster and who the hell's not faster? I don't know. I mean, I guess we can get a pretty good indication of who in Group A is fast and who in Group B is fast, and we can kind of piecemeal it from there, and then we can take into account prior experience and histories and all that stuff. But I thought it was fascinating. But when I was talking to Josh, because I just watched practice qualifying before I went to the race, lucky enough I sat next to Josh Berry and was like, "Let me pick your brain for a minute," and it made a lot more sense. So the same thing kind of with Toyotas. So I picked all the same cars from one organization because I figured they were going to unload pretty similar. Same thing with the Toyotas, and we saw kind of the same thing. Now, yeah, I mean, Group B qualifying was faster than Group A qualifying, but Group A was faster in practice than Group B. Yeah, I know. Makes no sense. I scratch my head at it and I go, I'm not sure how to correlate this into figuring out who I should take in Draftkings. I don't know. If you've got any thoughts, put it in the chat. Either way, let's talk about the driver by driver breakdown. Yeah, so Denny Hamlin is the most expensive driver. Denny Hamlin is also a Richmond native. He's also won here 4 times and once in the last 5 races. So our comparison tracks are the last 4 races in this next gen era. So the 2 in 2023, the 2 in 2022, and the 1 in 2021. We've got Denny Hamlin's qualifying spot, which was 11th, so he missed the final round. He was in practice group B, or the second practice group. His speed was 23rd fastest out of everybody. This is where it gets really confusing because you have to compare him into everybody's group. 48 laps, 24th on 20 lap consecutive average. I'm going to try to figure out a way to figure out this better. Because we're not comparing apples to apples much at all when we start to look at practice speeds. So I'm going to figure something out in the next couple of weeks on how to really kind of correlate this into who's fast and who's not fast. Because it's really not making a whole lot of sense by grouping everybody together. Family men, they need to do away with group practice, give an hour, and let everyone go out at once. Yes, I agree with that absolutely, family man. The potential issue is you could still run into false positives. You could have Justin Haley, Kaz Grala, Daniel Hemrick, and Ty Dillon be the first 4 cars on the track and run super fast lap times, and all of a sudden we're going to look at practice and be like, oh my god, Justin Haley's so fast in practice. Well, he just happened to be one of the first guys out there, and once you get 10 cars out there that have all run, 10, 15 laps, lap speeds are going to start to drop. So if all of a sudden Denny Hamlin's just a few minutes late getting out for practice because he's like, you know what, I want to know what the racing surface is going to look like and feel like at lap 50, not at lap 1, because I'm going to be racing a race at lap 50 much more than I'll be racing the track at lap 1. So I could see the need if I'm trying to figure out race speed, not qualifying speed, or even qualifying speed, because once you've laid out all that rubber from practice. What's up, Lost Prophet? I don't know if you just heard my whole, I don't know what the heck to do about practice speeds anymore because they don't make any sense because of this group qualifying, or group practice and group qualifying. Now, NASCAR's been nice enough to put all of Group A on the inside for lineup and all of Group B on the outside when they line up. So it's not whoever qualifies first, second. So it used to be whoever got the pole actually got to choose inside or outside, left or right on the restart, on the initial start. After that, the second row, third place had the inside, fourth place had the outside. And it just, whoever was 5th fastest was inside, 6th fastest was outside, and so on. Now, Everybody in Group A stays on the inside. Everybody in Group B stays on the outside. What? I'm so confused. I'm not. I understand it. But trying to piecemeal that in to actually who's fast and who's not makes it super difficult and super hard. I've been trying to figure that out all day. Yeah. I mean, I even picked Josh Berry's brain about it, and he was kind of like, yeah, it's just, that's what it is. And I'm like, okay, I'm lost. All right, Denny Hamlin. So, practice speeds are here. I'm going to briefly talk about them, but just understand the guys in Group 2 or B, I don't know which one to label it, if it's put a 1 or a 2 or an A and a B. I don't know. I put 2 for today. We'll see if that sticks or if I should go to Group B. And I'm probably going to separate them out completely. So it'll still have practice Group 2, but this 23rd will go to, I don't know, Denny Hamlin was like 6th fastest in his group, I think. Something along those lines. And I'll have what he was on his 20-lap run. So for now, this is what I got. I'm still trying to work out the kinks and figure out what is actually here and what isn't here. But either way, Denny Hamlin, he's a Richmond native, loves this track, runs this track really well. He's got 1 win in the last 5 races. He's got 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 5.8 average finish. He finished 2nd here in the fall race last year. Like I said, I mean, he's just really good at this track. I like Denny Hamlin a lot, starting 11th. We've got some place differential upside. He's starting 2nd. This is a night race. Finally, we're back to a nice night race at Richmond. There is a chance for rain and showers, so who knows? But either way. Next in line here, Christopher Bell, $11,000, starting 29th. Holy place differential. Christopher Bell really messed up his qualifying lap. His practice speeds were actually pretty good. He was in Group B, and he was 20th. 21st on 20-lap runs. So, I mean, being in Group B and being in 20th, it's not bad. I think the first 13 fastest drivers were all in Group A. If I remember correctly. Christopher Bell has not ever won at Richmond before, but he does run very well here. The Toyotas are very good at Richmond. Plain and simple. Toyotas, Joe Gibbs, are very good. The Hendrick Chevys are pretty good. And the Penske teams have been good here in the past. I don't know what to make of Ford right now, so I don't really know what to make of Penske. But RFK was good here last year. And RFK is starting to make a turn. They ran really well at Phoenix, so kind of keep that as a caveat for the Ford teams. We'll see. But Christopher Bell, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s in the last 5 races. 7th place average finish. He finished 20th in this race last fall. He is ranked number 1, and that is coming because of the potential for place differential and finishing position. I mean, heck, who knows? He could actually end up getting some Dominator points out of this before the day is done. Christopher Bell, hands down, between he and William Byron are probably the 2 fastest drivers out there right now. Denny Hamlin's led laps in every race so far this year. Kyle Larson has shown great speed. We've got Ty Gibbs has been right there. I mean, we've got 6, 7 drivers that are really trying to kind of separate themselves from everybody else. The question is, do Ryan Blaney's and everybody else start to show up? And then there's Martin Truex Jr., 10,800. And there's something special about Martin Truex Jr. at Richmond under the lights, or in general, Martin Truex Jr. on a short track under the lights. And God forbid this thing get postponed till Monday. just go ahead and take the whole thing and put it all on Martin Truex Jr. Richmond, Monday, Toyota, Martin Truex Jr., all the things fall into his lap. And he's been pretty quick so far this year and has been quick at Richmond in the past. In the last 5 races, 1 win, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 6th place average finish, and he finished 7th in this race last fall. So, yeah, I mean, the top 3 drivers, all Joe Gibbs Racing cars, and all 3 of them are phenomenal here at Richmond. I have Martin Truex Jr. as a number 4 on the ranking system. I have a very tentative usage because I really started to dig really deep into this whole practice thing, and I knew I had until tomorrow night to get lineups done. So the usage is very much an estimate based on my rankings. I have not set lineups. So that usage is a super big question mark. I can tell you who I'm not running and who I'm probably running a lot of. I'm probably running a lot of most of the Joe Gibbs cars, most of the Hendrick guys, maybe some of the RFK guys, and then it's going to be a hodgepodge of who I think might have some place differential. And I'll probably have some Josh Berry. Josh Berry's great at short tracks, and this was in his wheelhouse. He finished 2nd this race last spring, driving the number 9 car. William Byron, next in line here, our 2-time winner, winning at Coda last week. 10,500, starting 13th. He was in Group B. His fastest practice speed was 19th on the complete chart, and 14th in 20-lap consecutive average. So, I mean, actually, that's faster than anybody else we've seen in Group B so far. He finished 21st in this race last fall. This track seems to have been given William Byron a little bit of trouble, more so than a lot of ones. The thing is, William Byron's been pretty darn good at everything we've gone to this year, and it races a lot like Phoenix, and he had really good speed at Phoenix until he had some troubles. Starting 13th, this is a coin flip on if you want to use him or not. I don't mind the William Byron play. I don't love the William Byron play. I mean, at this point, he has nothing to lose if we get into funny pitch strategies. So I think it's going to be either a win or a big miss for William Byron this week. So, and if it's a win, it could be a first or a second type of scenario, but he may throw whatever to try to get more. I think he's going to go after stage points, which may end up hurting him towards trying to get a great finish, but it's hard to say. I don't love the William Byron play by any means this week. I don't hate it either, so take that for what it is. Kyle Larson, 10,200, starting on the pole. He was in the first practice, and he was first on speed. He was 2nd in 20-lap consecutive average. He does have 1 win in this at Richmond here in the last 5 years. He's got 2 wins to his 18 total starts. He's got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s in the last 5 races, a 9th place average finish, and he finished 19th in this race last fall. The one thing I've learned over the last 3 years, if Kyle Larson is this fast in practice and gets the pole, oh, buddy. But tire strategy is definitely going to play. Pitch strategy is definitely going to play into all this. I still like the Kyle Larson play because of how much speed he's actually got. The problem is the Joe Gibbs guys always have a tendency to figure out how to get up front. So it's kind of like a William Byron play. I like the Kyle Larson play probably a tick better than the William Byron, but William Byron's got some place differential. So I'm kind of all in on the Gibbs guys today, the Joe Gibbs drivers, including this guy, Ty Gibbs. I mean, this potentially lines up. I mean, Ty Gibbs has been running so well lately. This really lines up to give Ty Gibbs his first win. He's good at night races. He's good here at Richmond. Toyotas are super good here at Richmond. He's been banging on the door of getting a win. Starting 8th. Hey, dogs, stop. My family's out of town, so I've got the dogs in the room with me, and they're being noisy. I mean, we just don't have a lot of information on his average finishes. I mean, he's got a 20th place average finish, but he finished 15th here in the fall race last year, and he does have one top 10 out of 3 total starts. I mean, I like the Ty Gibbs play personally. I don't know. He's gonna get a win here soon. And he, like I said, he's banging on the door. So I can't argue with any of the Gibbs cars for tomorrow night's race. Same thing, I can't argue with any of the Hendrick cars. Then there's our boy, spinny Kyle Busch, who loves to spin and spin and spin and spin. Sometimes on his own and sometimes with help from Christopher Bell. $9,700 this week, starting 15th. He was 34th in practice speeds in the second group, but still 34th. Remember, there's only 36 drivers starting this race. So, yeah, super slow again. He came out and qualified 15th. I mean, Kyle Busch has the most wins of anybody at this track. But this is not the Kyle Busch of Kyle Busch dominance. And he seems to have, I literally think Kyle Busch might have spun out in every race we've had so far this year. Or at least just feels that way. So, I mean, Kyle Busch is kind of like his teammate Austin Dillon. I'm kind of like, dude, you're just bad luck at this point. But here at Richmond, he's good. But I've also seen him be really bad here before too, and next week at Martinsville. This is not the Kyle Busch of old, so I don't know really what to make of Kyle Busch. Practice speeds were awful, but he was in Group B. I mean, but still, 34th is bad. I really don't know what to do about Kyle Busch. He comes in ranked at 8th on all my charts, but I just don't know if that's really I don't know. I'm more down on Kyle Busch. I would put a William Byron in before I put a Kyle Busch in, and I'm uncertain about the William Byron play. So, Ryan Blaney, who has been seemingly super quiet all year long and super consistent and just is knocking out top 10s. But he's not really out there lighting the world on fire. And I think he's second in points or first in points. I mean, he's right there in the top 3 in points, I think. I don't really ever pay attention to points because until we get to race 23 or 24, because I just know it's going to be between 1 or 2 guys in points. And Ryan Blaney probably should get a win before we ever get to that spot. Now, he almost missed 1 year because he didn't get the win, but did sneak in on points. Ryan Blaney, $9,500, starting 12th. His practice speeds in first practice was 7th, 4th in 20-lap consecutive average. Does not have a top 5 here at all, but 3 top 10s out of the last 5 races. 4 top 20s, starting 12th. I'm not sure at $9,500 that gets you in the optimal lineup. Probably top 15 in Draftkings points. But if he goes and finishes 7th, doesn't lead a whole lot of laps, doesn't have very many fast laps, and only 5 places of differential, I don't know if that's super. And he was 7th in Group A practice, which isn't super fast. I mean, there's 6 other guys that are faster. And then he qualified 12th. So I really honestly, I don't mind the Ryan Blaney play in case we do have some issues up front and he's able to get up front and lead and potentially win. but I don't like thinking, this track doesn't line up well for a Ryan Blaney win. It lines up okay for a Ryan Blaney 7th place finish, but I'm not sure there's a win. So watch Ryan Blaney go out and lead like 300 laps tomorrow night and really stick up the show. But I don't foresee that happening. Chris Buescher, 9,300, who did win this race in the fall last year. I don't think it was actually the fall. I think it was still summer because it was hot. It was like 85 degrees and baking sun. Now it's nighttime for this race. Who knows what Chris Buescher's actually got? He was third in single lap practice out of Group A. Third on 20 lap consecutive average, so he's got some pretty good speed. Goes out, qualified 14th. Not bad. He does have that one win from the fall race last year and a 14.6 average finish. And he's driving for RFK. And out of all the Ford teams, I'm starting to entrust a little bit more in RFK than I am any of the other Ford teams at this point. So starting 14th, I don't mind the Chris Buescher play here. Don't love it. Not like he's got to be in my lineup. I don't think that's the case. I think he's a good filler if I've got $9,300 and need to fill in a spot. So put 15 to 20%. This is probably closer to 10 to 15% ownership. I don't mind the play. Don't love the play. There's not much so far that other than the Gibbs cars and Larson at this point. I haven't gotten anybody that I love. Chase Elliott, Group B practice, he was 29th, and then he goes out and qualifies second. He does not have 15 starts. What did I do here? I found my mess up. I thought I had gone through. Yeah, so 15 starts. That's not right. Not out of 5. Yeah, none of this is right for Chase Elliott. I'm not even sure where I've got anything. Let's see. Oh, I gotta sign back in? Maybe that's why it's not. That's why it's not showing my video. Okay. Chase Elliott. 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, 9.0 average finish. Average starting spot of 13.8. So I mean, Chase Elliott's not bad here. Sorry, this is all messed up. I've always got one spot that I mess up, and I found it. Oh my gosh, everything's now here. I can see how many people are watching, and I see the chat. Well, I saw the chat before, but I now have all my data and streaming analytics up now that I'm signed back in. Cool. Maybe that's why Rumble's not working right either. I'm not worried about Rumble. All right. So yeah, I don't mind the Chase Elliott play, other than he's practice speed's really not great. And he's starting in second. And once again, till Chase Elliott really starts to show me consistent speed, race in and race out, I don't know if I love this play either. I don't mind it. I like it better than Kyle Busch. So, Tyler Reddick, $8,700, starting 19th, was 31st in practice out of Group B. And here's a glaring thing about Tyler Reddick. He's never finished in the top 10 ever at Richmond. And he's got an 18th place average finish. And I've been to... I moved to Richmond in 2015 15, 16, and I've been to almost every race. And every race that Tyler Reddick has been in it, he has been awful. Awful, awful. I mean, he's driving a Toyota, and he's in the Toyota camp, and Denny Hamlin, who is really good here, maybe Denny's starting to show him how to run this place. But Tyler Reddick, like this weekend and next weekend, he is just not good at these short tracks yet. He'll figure it out, and once he does, he's going to be really good. But until that happens, I am fading on Tyler Reddick. Starting 19th, his practice speeds were not good, so take that for what it is. Ross Chastain, $8,500, and even Ross Chastain got out of his car and was like, I don't know what's wrong with it, it's broken. During practice, he was god-awful slow. But then he goes out, he figured it out, and qualifies third. So, and he was in Group A. He was in the fast group at practice. And had no speed. I don't know if they found something broken or not broken, or if their air pressures were off, or I have not heard what the cause of it was, other than they went out for qualifying and qualified really well. That has me worried. And then if we look at the average finish of 14.2, this style track is not really in Ross's wheelhouse. I mean, his best finish at this style track is he runs really well at Phoenix, though. All right, so I'll give him the Phoenix piece. Richmond's a little different than Phoenix, but it's one of the comparable tracks. But then you look at him at Martinsville, and he's not great at Martinsville. I really don't know what to do or think about practicing so bad and then qualifying so well. I'm going to probably fade off of Ross Chastain because I don't know if they know what exactly is good or bad. So, I don't know. Joey Logano, 8,400. Joey was in Group A in practice, the faster group, and qualified or practiced second, 6th in 20 laps, so his practice speeds are really good. He's got two wins here at Richmond out of 29 total starts. In the last 5 races, he's got 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. He led 222 laps this race last year. He's got a 7.8 average finish. If there is any track that Joey can really kind of turn his season in the right direction, this may be it. But, it scares me. Even though I honestly think this is a really good opportunity for Joey Logano to get headed in the right direction. So I don't mind the Joey Logano play. I think there's got to be a point in time where the Fords start to show back up, and Joey Logano shows back up. This has potential for that to happen, but take that with a grain of salt. He's also been not running real good so far this year. Same thing can be said with Brad Keselowski, but Brad Keselowski was second fastest in Group B practice. If I remember that correctly, 16th overall, which is actually pretty good. 17th on 20 lap run. And even though Brad has not been good at this next gen car, he's got an 11.4 average finish. He finished 6th in the race last fall. So even with the struggles that Brad has had with this next gen car, he's been running really well at Richmond in the next gen car. So starting 23rd, I think there's a decent amount of place differential here for Brad Keselowski. And kind of like Joey, if there's a racetrack for either one of them to turn their seasons around, this has that potential in it. They've run really well at Richmond in the past. They, for a long time, were the only ones that would give the Joe Gibbs guys a run for their money. Now we've got the Hendricks guys that are kind of caught up to Joe Gibbs, almost. But if there's an opportunity for Brad to kind of do well, I do like the Brad Keselowski play, especially starting 23rd. Alex Bowman, who does have a win here, not in the last 5 races or in this next gen era. The next gen era, it's been 5 top 20s, so 13.2 average finish. He finished 18th in the fall last year. I think this is one of his first races he was back after his broken back issue. $8,000 starting 4th. He was 5th in single lap practice, and he was in the faster Group A. But he was first on 20 lap run, so good long run speed. He does have a victory here in the past. He ran pretty well last week at COTA, so he's got some momentum behind him. I gotta put him right there with Chase Elliott. I don't really know what to do about the Alex Bowman play. At least Alex Bowman's practice speeds were really good. Now, Group A was really good. Group B was really bad. I don't mind the Alex Bowman play. Like I said, and I've said a couple times, I think the Hendricks guys' cars have the potential to make it a really good battle with the Toyota guys. And that's something I'll be watching tomorrow night at the race. Bubba Wallace, $7,700. Group B qualifying 22nd. Middle of the pack, in my opinion. Goes out and qualifies 5th. Good job, Bubba. You qualified really well. Then we look at his history here in Richmond, and it's about like it is at road courses, which is not very good. Out of the last 5 races at Richmond, only 2 top 20s, and one of them was a 12th place last fall. Okay, maybe he's heading in the right direction, but he averages a 21st place over those 5 races. And he qualified 5th. And you weren't that fast in practice. So I am fading off of 2311, even though the Toyotas run really well here. I think it's more just the Joe Gibbs guys run really well here. So with that being said, I'm a fade on Bubba Wallace this week. Chase Briscoe, 7,600, starting 32nd. Yeah, he just messed his qualifying lap up. Now, do I think Chase Briscoe is going to go out and set the world on fire and get a 10th place finish? I mean, possibly. I mean, his average finish is 14.6 over the last 5 races at Richmond. No top 10s, though. All of 4 top 20s. But if Chase Briscoe can start 32nd and finish 14th at $7,600, that puts him definitely in the top 15 in Draftkings points. Potentially knocking on, depending on salaries, knocking on an optimal lineup. So I don't think it's a shoe-in, but Chase Briscoe is actually pretty good here at Richmond. And his practice speeds were, I mean, he was in the first group and he was 25th. So he's one of the slower guys in practice. I think Chase Briscoe is still one of the safer plays for the guys that are starting in the 30s. Josh Berry, starting in 30th. Josh Berry is very good here at Richmond. Now, it's a 1-race sample. I get it. He finished 2nd in the number 9 car. But in the Xfinity world, he ran really, really well at Richmond. He's a short track expert. He's a tire saving expert. He ran really well at Bristol. He ran pretty well at Phoenix earlier this year. He had decent speed there. Starting in 30th. And maybe I'm a little biased. I sat next to him for an entire Xfinity race and got to talk to him off and on. So maybe I'm a little bit homered on Josh Berry this week. Okay, whatever. But I don't mind the Josh Berry play. No, I don't. There's a decent amount of place differential here. He did start 30th last year when he got his 2nd place finish. So maybe there's something to that. Yeah, I mean, if you start 30th and you finish 2nd, you're definitely in the optimal lineup, especially at $7,500. Daniel Suarez, 7,300, starting in 20th. Practice 24th in Group A, the faster group. So not real good on practice speeds. And then if we look at what have you done for me lately here at Richmond, not much. 21.6 average finish. 3 top 20s, no top 10s. Only 3 top 10s in his entire 13 total starts at Richmond, and he finished 33rd in the fall race. I think this is kind of a spot where Daniel finishes where he starts, and that doesn't do much of any good. So I don't have a whole lot of interest in Daniel Suarez. Noah Gragson, $7,100, starting 17th. He was in Group B, so the slower group, and he was 27th. That's not awful. 18th in long run speed. 29.7 average finish. Now, the body of work here is not much. He was running a Colleague car for 1 or 2 races, and then ran the Legacy crappy Chevy last year that his team hated him and he hated the team, and oil and water mix, and it didn't mix. So looking at the history here is not great. I kind of looking at Noah Gregson's a much better driver. Now, do I think he's going to go out and get a top 10? Probably not. Do I think he can go and finish top 15 or finish where he starts? Possibly, but that's probably not enough. I think he overqualified for what I would be interested in taking of Noah Gragson. So I have faded off of Noah Gragson for this weekend. Hope he does well. I do like watching him race. Michael McDowell, $7,000, starting 31st. Decent amount of place differential here, and he was the fastest car in Group B practice. And then didn't go out and qualify very well. Either way, yeah, Michael McDowell's not very good here either. There's not, I mean, unless you're in a Hendrick or a Gibbs car, you're not good at Richmond. There are a couple Fords. Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano have the potential to be good here, and Michael McDowell's not in. 23rd place average finish, 1 top 5 in the last 5 races, only 1 top 5 and 24 total starts here. The track just does not mix well for Michael McDowell. So faded off of Michael McDowell. Austin Dillon, 6,800, starting 22nd. I'm not sure his luck improved much last week. I guess it was a little bit better because he finished the race last week at COTA. But it still wasn't anything great. Now, Austin Dillon here at Richmond is better than some tracks. 14.2 average finish. He finished 9th in this race last fall. In the last 5 races, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, 14.2 average finish, starting 22nd. I see the argument for playing a little bit of Austin Dillon, but I don't think we're gonna. I think his ceiling is a 10th. So that's 12 places of differential. Is that enough? Maybe not. And once again, until Austin Dillon kind of shows me more that he got the voodoo doll and removed his bad luck, I'm faded off of Austin Dillon at 6,800. So Eric Jones at 6,600. Everything in me says Eric Jones is going to have a good weekend. I don't know. Other than practice B, he was the 2nd or 3rd fastest driver in practice B, which was the slower of the practice guys. Now he didn't do a long run. He only did 10 laps. So this is one of the 2 drivers that only did 10 lap consecutive run. He was 23rd on that. Not good. Starting 27th. Finished 23rd in this race last year. None of this says Eric Jones is going to have a good weekend. I just have a gut feeling that Eric Jones is going to have a moderate to decent weekend. I don't know why. It could be completely wrong, so don't take any. This is all a gut check. And I've always said in these videos, if I could back it up with facts, I'm going to back it up with facts. If I can't, and it's a gut check, I'm going to tell you it's a gut check. This is a complete gut check for Eric Jones. Nothing. I mean, he's average finish at 26. Other than he's driving a Toyota now, And I just think he has. I think there's a potential for Eric Jones to have a decent weekend. Now, do I think he finishes top 5? Probably not. Do I think he finishes 7th, 8th? Yeah. If I'm shooting for where I think Eric Jones may finish this weekend, I think it's there. And starting 27th, that's not a bad deal. So that's why my usage is up on Eric Jones. Ryan Preece, who is actually really good here at Richmond. Even though our sample size is very small, Ryan Preece has won modifieds here at Richmond before. He's good at short tracks. He's good at tire saving. He did well at Bristol. He had a decent race at Phoenix. Starting 16th, though. That's the part that scares me about Ryan Preece. He was 13th in single lap, and it was in the first group, which was the faster of the two groups, so he was 13th out of that group. Yeah, not great. He finished 5th in this race last fall. Pretty good. Okay, there's a shining spot for this sheet, because everything else doesn't look really that pretty. Coin flip on the Ryan Preece thing. He's $6,500, so there's some value there. I think the John Hunter Nemechek play probably is a little bit better at $6,400. He was 4th in single lap, 10th in 20 lap consecutive average. We don't have much data other than he has a 30th place average finish here at Richmond. So yeah, this is kind of just I think Legacy outruns 2311. That's my prediction. Is John Hunter and Eric Jones have better days than Reddick and Wallace. Take that for what you will. And it's just sheerly a gut feeling. Austin Cindric, 6,200. Outkicked your qualifying effort. There's not much other to it. $6,200, starting 9th. He was in the slower practice, and he was 26th. He's got a 21.5 average finish. He doesn't have anything. He's got 2. Half the time he's finished in the top 20, the other half he's not. And he's starting 9th. Nothing here tells me that this is a potential of something good. So, faded off of Austin Cindric. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $6,000. I wish there was a betting line on when Ricky Stenhouse Jr. goes to the high side. Every Richmond race, it's like lap 30, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is the first one to go up and run the fence. And he runs it really well. Until he doesn't. But it's so funny to watch all the drivers just fighting to be right along the bottom yellow line. And then all of a sudden, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., you'll look up and it's like, oh my gosh, we have somebody wrecking. And no, it's Ricky. Running the outside. Like it's Miami or Darlington. It's the weirdest thing. So watch for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to go to the high side. And in fact, we might see quite a few drivers go to the high side this weekend. That's the interesting thing about Richmond. There are potentially 3 distinct grooves on this little short track. It's fun to watch. Carson Hocevar, 5,900, who did win the truck race here last year, so he's got a win here at Richmond in the Truck Series. Doesn't have any starts in the Cup Series, so we don't have much information. Starting 25th, he was 30th in Group B B practice. 26th on long run speed. Yeah, I don't think I love the play for Carson Hocevar this weekend. But there is room for place differential, so I'll probably have him in a couple lineups, but not going very heavy on that. Corey LaJoy, starting 21st, has a 28.2 average finish here. Has never finished inside the top 20 ever. Out of 12 starts. Yeah, he's just starting too far up. I have no interest in Corey LaJoie this weekend. Zane Smith at 5,600, starting 28th, 17th in practice, and that was in the faster practice. We don't have any data and information on Zane. He has, I think, run well in the truck series here, and that's just what I'm trying to remember. I think he may have won 2 years ago. I could be wrong about that, though. That could have been Chandler. One of the Smith guys, and I know Chandler Smith won the Xfinity and Cup, or the Xfinity last year and Xfinity this year. I just can't remember what Zane has done here at Richmond. Either way, starting 28th. At 5,600, there's some potential here with Zane. Don't love it, don't hate it. I think, if you need, I don't mind sprinkling him in on some of my lineups. Todd Gillen, 5,500. He way outkicked his coverage on qualifying, just like Austin Cedric did. At least he's got a top 20 in the 4 starts that he's had. He's starting 6th. It's way too high up. So, no interest in that. Ty Dillon's back. Oh, here we go. Great. And he's driving in the 16 car. I get it. Well, I don't get it, actually. Take that back. Why AJ Allmendinger's not running the 16 car full time is beyond me. I think they would honestly be better if they just said, heck with it, run SVG full time in the Cup Series in the 16 car, other than this just throw whoever in the 16. This has to be Ty Dillon's absolute last shot at Cup. He's got, I think, 5 or 6 races slated for the 16 car. I have no interest in Ty Dillon. He's starting in 30th. I would potentially have a small interest if he were starting 36. But I'm not sure he finishes any better than 30th. And Colleague is just not good this year in the Cup Series. Justin Haley at $5,300, starting 36. There are lots of bright things to talk about Justin Haley about. And it's not his averages here. Richmond, but he's been getting everything and then some out of this 51 Rick Ware car. And he's starting shotgun last on the field. Nowhere to go but up. I have no problem taking shots with Justin Haley. Anytime somebody who has got the potential and has done pretty well so far this year, I'll take some chances on Justin Haley. So if we're trying to go for some bottom beaters, Justin Haley's probably the best play down here. That or maybe Daniel Hemrick. But it's definitely not Harrison Burton starting 26th. I have no interest in that whatsoever. And it's Cosgralla at 5,100, starting 35th. I could see sprinkling in some Cosgralla with Justin Haley. Both of them have, they don't mind rolling the dice because they know that if they don't roll the dice, they're going to end up being next to last on the field anyways. And sometimes that's been paying off for him. Daniel Hemrick starting 34th in the 31. I think Daniel Hemrick outruns Ty Dillon. So we're going to have a few of these guys back here. I don't mind the Daniel Hemrick play. I like the Justin Haley play better out of this bottom group. And then maybe third on that group would be Cosgralla. By the way, I don't love any of it, but I know we've got to have some of it. So either way, guys that I really like, once again, it's Gibbs and Hendrick. Gibbs and Hendrick. Maybe Joey or Brad. But Christopher Bell starting 29th, that's almost it's almost as much of a shoe-in for the optimal lineup as Bubba Pollard today in the Xfinity Series. I pretty much knew that he was going to get a top 10. And when he was starting so far back, I was like, oh yeah, that's an easy play. I should have just had him in every one of my lineups. It was that easy of a play. And I'm telling you, that next year, if Chandler Smith is still in that same 81 car, I should just go and put him in. But big props to Bubba Pollard today for a great run in his first Xfinity race, finishing 6th, I think, or 6th or 7th. Either way, he had a great run. But I really like. Christopher Bell, I think, is almost just a shoe-in for optimal lineup. So he'll be in a lot of my lineups. I think Denny Hamlin's probably close to that same ballpark. Martin Truex Jr. here in Richmond at night is phenomenally good. So Kyle Larson was super fast in practice and qualifying. He was probably the most consistent across the board. But a William Barton coming from 13th, Brad Keselowski coming from 23rd, a Kyle Busch, that kind of scares me. Josh Berry coming from 30th, I don't mind. Ross starting in 3rd because his practice was so awful. I don't know what to make of it. Ty Gibbs coming from 8th, who's banging on a door of getting a win. Don't mind that play. Joe Logano's got to turn around this season at some point. And then we get down into here, and it's like, I don't know. The ones I don't like. I don't like Bubba Wallace. I don't like Austin Cindric. I don't like Ty Gillen this week. I don't like Hemrick, Burton, Hocevar, Dillon, Gralla. The Gala and Haley out of all this down here have the most interest, and it's not a ton. It's only because I know I'm going to have some guys in the lower 5,000s, so I could run a Christopher Bell, a Denny Hamlin, and those guys. So, with that being said, I'm sure I have run way over on my time. But either way, I appreciate everybody letting me know that the video is working. Finally figured out why I wasn't able to see the stuff because it wasn't logged in correctly. But either way, I'm glad it worked. I'm headed to the race tomorrow. There are some potential chances for showers. And if that happens to happen and this thing does get postponed until Monday, God, I hope not. It's going to make for a very, very short week. Oh, yeah, I'm going to Martinsville next weekend. There's a truck race on Friday, Xfinity race on Saturday. They now have casinos open in Danville. My best friend lives there. I'm going to do everything in my power to get a video to you guys next week. But don't kill me if it doesn't happen. Like I said, I'm going to try. I'm going to take all my stuff with me, and I'm going to try to make it happen. Either way, hopefully I see everybody next Saturday night. If I don't happen to make it, I'll see you the following Saturday. Either way, good luck. Enjoy the night race from Richmond tomorrow night. And let me know if anybody hits the bag. Bowman, Blaney were fast on the long run. You think they could win? Bowman, yes. Blaney, sure, Blaney has a potential for a win anywhere. He's got the capability. And what's up, Andrew? But Bowman, I think Bowman has a better chance at a win over Blaney. Just because I still have a big question mark on what kind of speed the Fords really have or don't have. And I'm not sure the Fords do. Joe Logano had an interview this week. It was like, we're just off on speed. Now, it could easily click mid-race this weekend, and something gets figured out, and they all pick up speed. I don't know. So if I like the Bowman play better than the Blaney play. Let's put it that way. Hendrick, Gibbs, maybe Joey or Brad are my top 10 favorite plays. And any of those combinations that you can figure out, and you can pull in a Justin Haley to keep your price down. And maybe a Josh Berry starting in 30th. Shout out to Josh Berry. Only because I sat with him today during the Xfinity race. Such a fluke. Very cool, but a fluke. Either way, thanks for tuning in. Hit me up in the chat if you have any other questions, thoughts, or concerns. Hit that like and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We'll see you more than likely next Saturday, but if not, the following. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the race. Happy Easter. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around at the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Mac. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
Great job, guys. Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.